After a murder, the negative energy is blasted into the environment, leaving an imprint of the events. Or the spirit never actually leaves the murder scene, as they are possibly not able to move on. It is these types of scenes that psychics can pick up on. There are some psychics who investigate crimes by using paranormal psychic abilities, and in murder cases the psychic may be in communication with the spirits of the murder victims. Individuals claiming psychic abilities have stated they have helped police departments to solve crimes. Some children are more susceptible to ghost sightings because they have a much greater sense of awareness than most adults, which leave them subject to picking up on energies and events that go unnoticed by most. The following case is about a murder that took place leaving behind negative energy and a strong emotional imprint as well as the spirit of the victim. In the following incident, the mother picked up on the negative energy whilst the daughter befriended the spirit. In January 2000, Jodie Foster, 30, and her 2-year-old daughter Hannah were searching for a new place to live. After looking at ads in the paper and inquiring at various agencies, she came across a for rent sign on the front of an apartment complex on Pimac Road in Chico, California. She initially thought that the complex looked ideal for her and her daughter, but after a quick tour of the complex, had a strange negative feeling about the place. However, instead of trusting her instincts, she ignored her feelings and blamed it on the stress and fear of not finding a place to live. After touring the apartment, she was satisfied with what she had seen and asked for an application. After their application was successful, they were able to move into the apartment at the end of the week. Unfortunately, their first night in the apartment did not go well, where Jodie had a terrible nightmare where a man and a woman were stalking a young woman and woke up trembling and covered in sweat. What upset her most about the nightmarish dream was the horrible predatory nature of the couple. She could hear them talking, but could not work out what they were talking about. However, it was not a one-off nightmare, and as the weeks passed, the dreams became increasingly vivid, detailed, and more violent. While Jodie was dealing with her dreams, her daughter Hannah told her that she was speaking to an angel who called themselves My Liz. After a period of time, Jodie became acquainted with some of the neighbours, and one evening she was told by one of the long-term residents that Jodie and her daughter's apartment was once the home of a young woman who had suddenly disappeared many years before. The tenant also told her that over the years, many tenants had not stayed there very long, and for some inexplicable reason had abruptly left. But what she heard next would raise the hairs on the back of her neck when she was told that the apartment was haunted. Was this what Jodie had felt when she'd had strange feelings about the apartment, which she chose to ignore? Over the following months, events would escalate, where Hannah began to have strange sightings of her angel friend My Liz, and Jodie's terrifying dreams turned into a terrifying night of poltergeist activity where she could no longer accept or deal with the frightening situation, causing much pressure and stress, pushing her to breaking point. Just like the previous tenants, Jodie grabbed Hannah and left the apartment in the middle of the night and never went back. It was not until many years later, in 2008, that Jodie mustered up the courage to research what had taken place in the haunted apartment, and what she uncovered was both amazing and horrifying. This is what she was able to find out. On January 31st, 1976, a young woman by the name of Mary Elizabeth Spanaki disappeared while walking home from a flea market on Mangrove Avenue in Chico, California. Spanaki's boyfriend then went to the police to report her disappearance. He told them that the last time he saw Marie was at the flea market, where they had gotten into an argument and his girlfriend had stormed off on foot in anger and headed back to their shared apartment. However, when he arrived back at the apartment, he found she had not returned there. After 24 hours, when she failed to return home, she was officially reported missing. Obviously, the first suspect was Maria's boyfriend, but after extensive questioning, was eventually cleared. As the couple had only lived in Chico for a couple of months, there were no friends or acquaintances to interview about her possible whereabouts. Marie Elizabeth Spanaki appears to have vanished into thin air, and due to lack of any leads or kind of evidence, the case had run cold before it had even got started. Then 8 years later, in November of 1984, a woman by the name of Janice Hooker confessed important information to a pastor in Red Bluff Church, California. The story she told shocked the country. In May 1977, Janice Hooker claimed that she and her husband Cameron Hooker had abducted a young woman by the name of Colleen Stan while she was hitchhiking in Oregon. The couple then trapped this woman and held her for over 7 years in their home, where she was sexually assaulted and tortured. The couple had kept her in a box under a bed 24 hours at a time. After a period of time, Janice Hooker became so guilt-ridden and to avoid a mental breakdown, eventually released the young woman. She then went to Red Bluff Church to confess her sins. But what happened to the unfortunate young woman was just the start of the story, where Janice Hooker also claimed that abducted another woman a year earlier. She said that her husband forced her to help in the kidnapping and murder of another woman in Chico, California in 1976. She described how they'd seen the woman walking along Mangrove Avenue, Chico, and had offered her a ride home. The woman accepted the ride and asked to be taken to her apartment at the intersection of Rio Lindo and Parmac Road. Janice Hooker said that the woman's name was Marie Elizabeth Spanicki, but went by her nickname Ma Liz. She claimed that after hours of torturing the unfortunate woman, her husband then killed Ma Liz before the couple dumped her body somewhere in the forest. After receiving the important information, authorities attempted to recover the body of Mary Elizabeth Spanicki, but were unsuccessful. In exchange for a testimony, the DA did a surprising deal that granted Janice Hooker immunity from all charges in the Colleen Stan abduction case. Over the following weeks, details of Colleen Stan's long nightmare made international news, where Colleen Stan became known as the girl in the box. However, in a shocking turn of events, detail of Mary Elizabeth Spanicki's death are stricken from the trial because her body was never able to be recovered. Because of this, Cameron Hooker was sent to prison only for his crimes against Colleen Stan and never had to answer for the disappearance and probable murder of Mary Elizabeth Spanicki, known as Liz. This now takes us back to the haunting at the apartment complex on Parmac Road in Chico. After reading about the horrific events that had taken place 32 years earlier, Jody was in shock. Could it be that when her daughter Hannah spoke about an angel called Liz, was it actually the spirit of Liz? Were Jody's terrible nightmares actually psychic messages from the haunted spirit of Marie Elizabeth Spanicki, who was passing on the memories of her last traumatized moments? Jody Foster contacted the Red Bluff Police Cold Case Department and felt she'd have to tell them what had transpired in her nightmares and what her daughter had told her, no matter how crazy it sounded. Detectives were shocked by the accuracy of the details that Jody had provided.